You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So let's start with the definite needs. These are position groups you look at and you say, yep, they need to add at least one guy to it. And let's start off with the free space. This is the middle of the bingo card, okay? You can just cross it off right here. Let's get it out of the way. Quarterback position. Kyle McCord, we all love him, I think. He just had the most prolific passing season in Syracuse football history statistically. The most passing yards, the most touchdowns, the most completions in a single year in Syracuse history. He's out of eligibility. Thank you, Ryan Day, for playing him in a meaningless half. But he's out of eligibility, so he's not coming back next season. They need a quarterback. It's kind of similar to last year when Garrett Schrader was out of eligibility and they got Kyle McCord. Kind of like that. They need one. They do have some in-house options, right? They got Michael Johnson, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Those are stopgap at best options, at best. Then you got some young guys. A lot of us are high on Jakari Williams. He was a 2024 recruit. You also got a couple of 2025 guys coming in. One of them being Luke Carney, who I think a lot of us have high expectations for, considering that Locked On recruiting expert Brian Smith over the summer said he watched his tape and said, this guy could be a 5-star if he played at a different school, because that's sometimes how star ratings work. They look at what school you went to. It's kind of weird, but it's up to really coaches and the staff to determine how they view a player rather than, what a recruiting service says. But we all have high hopes for Luke Carney, right? I don't think we want to hand the keys, though, to anyone currently on the roster for 2025 to be the starting quarterback. Okay? That's just how I feel about it. It's not that I don't have high hopes for anyone. And we're going to talk about in future podcasts what the strategy should be. Should they stay in-house? Should they get a one-year transfer, a multi-year transfer? Because there are plenty of options out there of what they could do. But the bottom line, they need a quarterback in the transfer portal. So that's it. We got it out of the way. We know Syracuse football needs a quarterback. They're also going to need to revamp basically their entire offensive line because they got a lot of starters who are out of eligibility. You got both your guards, Jacob Bradford, Mark Petrie, out of eligibility. Your center, John Ray Reed, he's out of eligibility. One of your tackles, Savion Washington from Colorado this past season, he's out of eligibility. They do return some guys. They return David Wollaba, Demetrius Weatherspoon at the tackle position. Both of them obviously started games. Weatherspoon was kind of iffy when he played, but at least he's got starter experience. And Wollaba is pretty good as well. But inevitably, also, you're going to have guys who are being promoted that are currently on the roster because I don't see Syracuse football adding 4 starting offensive linemen in the portal. I don't. So I guess the way I would categorize it is I think they need to find 2. At least 2. Preferably a tackle and a guard in the transfer portal if I'm Syracuse football. Because you're going to need to revamp your entire offensive line. Now, for what it's worth, they had the second lowest yards per carry in the ACC this season. That's a reflection a lot on run blocking. So if you can find some guys in the portal that are good at run blocking, I think it would be an upgrade for Syracuse football. So the first 2 needs on offense, I think, are quarterback, obviously, and offensive linemen, preferably at least 2 offensive linemen. Let's shift over to the defense in their biggest needs. Both the linebackers. That's what it is. Those are their biggest ones that we're talking about. Your middle linebacker's Marlowe Wax. He's a leader. He's a captain. He's arguably your best player on defense, multi-year starter at Syracuse. He's going to get NFL looks, but I'm not an NFL talent evaluator, so I can't tell you for sure if he's going to be drafted or not. He'll get an invite to an NFL training camp. He's out of eligibility. It's unfortunate. I wish he could come back. But that's just how it is in college football. Not every single player out there is going to get 15 years of eligibility. Some do. I don't know how. Some do. But it's not Marlowe Wax. So we wish you well, Marlowe Wax, but he's out of eligibility. And when you look at the in-house options, we're also going to talk about the weak side linebacker here too. Justin Barron, another defensive stalwart, he's out of eligibility. When you look at the defensive options that you have in place on the roster right now, you got James Hurd. He's a young guy. I think he started a couple of games when Marlowe Wax was out earlier this season. Derek McDonald is a veteran. He was the weak side linebacker starter for a little bit this season. Now, James Hurd, I'm a little bit higher on because he's a young guy. So you got to think that he maybe has more room to grow and he can be better. And Derek McDonald, I think he's a good depth piece for next season. But I think that Syracuse football needs to add 2 starting linebackers in the portal. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think are the biggest needs for Syracuse football? On defense, it's got to be both linebackers. And on offense, quarterback and offensive line are the biggest needs. There is a bonus biggest need I have for you all. Nobody, I believe, is out of eligibility at this position. How about a kicker? Why not? I don't know if there's going to be any kickers or how many there will be in the transfer portal, but if Syracuse football can get a kicker in the transfer portal, they were one of the worst kicking games in the ACC this past season. I would throw that in there as well if they can get a good kicker. So, biggest needs in the transfer portal for Syracuse. On offense, quarterback, offensive line, defense, 2 linebackers, one to replace Marlowe Wax, the other to replace Justin Barron, and your bonus ones on special teams. I think they need a kicker. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think are Syracuse football's biggest needs in the transfer portal?